Hey, my creative friends. My name is Shannon from shannonstudio.com. And I'm here to talk about creative life and creative life tips, what we can do and what a creative life looks like, and a little bit of Sweden, but because we've been living here for a year, but I don't have anything about Sweden today in particular, just that it's beautiful out. Hey, Joan. Hey, boyfriend. So, hey, Trisha, you all popped on at the same time. Let's see. Okay, correction, right off. Okay, yesterday I was talking about, I don't even remember what I was talking about. What was I talking about yesterday? Oh, that experiment, the thought experiment about what you would do if you know, what kind of vacation you would take if you didn't know if you weren't going to remember it afterwards. And one of the things I said was sleep. And yes, thanks, Raylyn, for being in solidarity with me on that one. But the other one I said was something, immoral. So I'm talking to Alan afterwards, and I said something about, like stealing or something like that. He goes, when you say immoral, it usually means sexual immorality. I'm like, oh my goodness. So just clarification, I was not thinking, I'd go do something sexually immoral. I was thinking like stealing, like, running traffic lights, running all over just like doing things that you think you wouldn't do otherwise. So I'm like, you can't correct these. I can't go back and edit out those kinds of, I could, but it's not like I'm going to do that. But I thought, I'm just going to clarify that one right off today. So, so today is Sunday. On Sunday, we tie creativity to spirituality and just kind of, think about it a little bit differently. So today we started out by, we are still having church at home. Gatherings are still supposed to be small. And so Alan usually does the lesson on Sunday. He usually does something for us on Sunday, which I think is really nice. And today's Father's Day. Boyfriend says, just move on. You are so bad. Okay, so today is Father's Day. And so he brought up honor thy father and thy mother for our lesson today, which I think was perfect. And so what I'm going to do first is tell just a few little stories from the book Innovators DNA, and about some father's sons. And sometimes we underestimate some of the things we do as parents. And anyway, so one of the things was early on, Steve Jobs' father made a space on his work, set aside part of his workbench for Steve to be able to experiment on mechanical things and play with mechanical things. I know it's a small thing, but small things added together make big things. And in his recollection, there were a couple things that Steve Jobs remembered that informed how he worked and what he did. And one of those things was that his father did that, and he tinkered there at that workbench. Another for John Huntsman Jr., he talks about his father. And his father actually, Alan was Alan's mission president on his mission. So John Huntsman Jr. was saying about how his father worked for, was a special advisor to President Nixon, and it was at the White House, and his son Huntsman Jr. was 11 and went with his dad went there. And when he was there, he met Henry Kissinger and, asked there was this conversation went on, and asked where he was going, and Henry Kissinger said he was going to China, and apparently there was this secret meeting that was supposed to happen. I don't know if he told him that then, but that's what it says in the book now. And it just really sparked this interest in Huntsman Jr. to study Asian history, languages. He studied Mandarin for 15 years, and he ended up being U.S. ambassador to China. And so you think back, and he says, thinking back to that time, how influential that was at 11 years old to just go with his dad to work. and you're thinking, you don't think that's going to be a big deal. Another one is the author of the book, one of the authors of the book Innovator's DNA, is Jeff Dreyer, and his dad one time did an experiment at home and would do these kind of experiments. He was a sociologist, and he put an iron white shirt on the floor in a walkway, in a central walkway in their home. And so he just kind of watched what would happen with his family and this white shirt on the floor. And for 2 days, the family walked around it. Everybody just carefully walked around it. Nobody did anything with it. Nobody picked it up. I want to know how many of you can relate to that. I'm like, does anybody else see this in the house but me? So anyways, after that couple days, he got his family together and he talked about why didn't anybody pick it up? Why didn't they feel like it to pick it up? And then he talked about their responsibilities around the house and their part in the home. And then his dad Dreyer did another experience where they swapped sons. He and another family swapped sons. So their teenage sons went and lived at each other's houses for a week. And then both families got together and discussed the sons discussed, and it was just kind of this experiment, social experiment to see and to so I just, and then Jeff Dreyer in this book talks with fondness of his father and his parents. So I was, this whole idea of our relationships with fathers and the effect that fathers can have. And that it's a real blessing to have fathers. And I meant to get a couple other quotes and I forgot. But then, so you have to go with the idea of honoring your father and your mother. And like I said, Alan did the lesson today, and he shared a story of a girl who, she had an alcoholic father, and he was not very good to the family. And so she would, try to learn what she could do to be helpful. And she learned different things and tried these different things in her life and became this very good person, and yet nothing changed at home. And so, instead of blaming God or anything, she just kept improving to see what she could do to add to the family dynamics to make it better. So then she finally left for college, and nothing had changed. So she was gone for a couple weeks, and then she came home, or a few weeks, and came home, and her mom met her at the door crying and said, basically your father hasn't had a drink or a cigarette since you left, and that he is reading, he took some missionaries in. I can't think they came the same day she left. Some missionaries that taught him, and he was reading the Book of Mormon, and he was having a change in his life, and it became a different person. And I just thought, here's a person who, by all observation, we would say, don't honor him. He's got some problems. But I didn't write this scripture down, but I was reading it about, this is, honor thy father and thy mother is a first commandment with a promise. And I didn't study that, I just glanced over that. And so I wonder, what that promise is and how it plays out. And this story is kind of an example, I think, of how it plays out and what the blessings are. And then, as I'm looking at, I asked him about what he felt. I asked him why he was a good father, because truly there are no perfect fathers, but Alan is a great father for my kids, and I could not have chosen better. I knew that, it's just, you don't know that going in. But thankfully for me and my family, Alan doesn't have big hobbies. His family is his hobby. It's work, and he works for his family. And so I asked him what made him a good dad. And several things he talked about were his focus, about how what motivated him, and he talked about love and taking care of his family and feeling a responsibility and understanding their sacrifice. but everything kept coming back to basically living the gospel of Jesus Christ, and learning those things, and then applying those things, and doing what's right, and in doing that, living the gospel of Jesus Christ has given him a focus of family, and has given him the things that he needs to be a good dad, and that he works for to be a good dad. And so when you have somebody in your life, if you are lucky to have a father in your life, I hope you have somebody like him. He's a good dad, even if he is throwing water balloons 100 miles an hour at Joseph. You'd have to see the video that we did yesterday of that. So then you have to go to the relationship of Jesus Christ and God the Father. And as I recollect, the scripture reading I've done, and all the time Christ is deferring and referencing his Father. He's always talking about doing his, the Father's will, and he's always submitting himself to the Father, and he's always leaving the glory to the Father, and he's always giving thanks. We're supposed to always give thanks to the Father. And it's just this relationship uniquely, a unique relationship like no others, that show us an ideal way, I think, to look at your father and your mother. But and so here's the scripture, 2 Peter 1:17. For he received from God the Father honor and glory when there came such a voice to him from the excellent glory, this is my beloved Son in whom I am well pleased. And when I think almost every reference that the Father is in and introducing his Son, he calls him his beloved Son. And I did a video a while back talking about how I view what beloved means. And anyways, so there's that father and son relationship. Then we have John 3:1. What manner of love the Father hath bestowed upon us, that we should be called the sons of God, or we should be called the children of God. If you are a Christian and a spiritually active Christian, then knowing and understanding the Father and getting to understand his will, I think, is of paramount concern to us in our spirituality, to understand that. Jesus Christ clearly understood the Father's will. And in doing so, understanding and learning what it was and doing his part brought about the greatest gift to us. But I think it sustained him. And I think if we understand the Father, it will sustain us through the questions that we have, through not knowing things, but having faith. It'll strengthen our faith. I think I had a thought and it left. But referencing, I just think in my own life, the harder the trials that I have, the more I think I have a window into the Father and why he does what he does and why he requires things of us. Because the relationships of fathers and mothers is that they require things out of us. Joseph is still learning that. He thinks that we shouldn't, we should just make him happy, which we want to make him happy, but he doesn't want us to, require anything out of him. And that's usually where you start to have friction, is when you require. And I think when we can really, truly get to that place where we start to see little windows into why the commandments, why the requirement, I think then we move forward in our spirituality. So, honor thy father and thy mother can be our earthly fathers and mothers, particularly today our fathers, and then also our spiritual father and mother and deity. So that's just the thought today, is that I just think I'm very blessed. to have Alan as the father of my children, and just today's Father's Day, and I'm just really grateful. I'm grateful for my dads, for men who step in as stepdads, and for my dad who did that, stepped in as a stepdad. I'm grateful to get to know my father, birth father, natural father, as I'm older, and I have a lot more experience to be able to be open. So I'm just, it's just a time that we get to think about fathers and be grateful and share that gratitude. And so that's it. That's the thought for today, and to and build our own faith with our Father in heaven. So I will leave that with you today, and I will be back tomorrow. Remember, you have a creative heartbeat, so listen for it, and bye for now.